You're listening to the Business and Life Podcast, where 7 days a week, proven entrepreneurs share their success stories, failures, and give you true value on how you can build a great business and an awesome life. With your host, Mike Ethos.
Hi, Belinda. Welcome to the show.
Well, hi. Thanks so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
Thank you for your time. So tell our listeners something interesting about yourself.
Something interesting about myself. Well, I have worked as a sales trainer for the last 25 years, a motivational speaker, trainer, created lots of different products. You have a podcast, but probably the most interesting tidbit that a lot of people don't know is that I was a professional drummer.
Oh, really? Did you play in a band?
I did play in a band.
Oh, wait. What kind of band was it? That's awesome.
I've played in a couple different. I've played in top charts or pop 40 or top 40, whatever charts, and mostly rock and roll. I've done sort of older rock and roll, like kind of 60s rock and roll. And then I was in probably the band that I was the most successful with and was with the longest was kind of a country rock band.
Very cool. So tell us a little bit about your business. What kind of business is it? What's the name of the business for the listeners? Of course, they heard the information on the intro, but what kind of value does it bring also to the marketplace?
Sure. Because success. And I also have a brand with Work From Your Happy Place. And so that's been more sort of a recent brand. That's the name of our podcast. And it's more for entrepreneurs. But I have spent a lot of time working with people in the direct selling space. And we have created a lot of programs, tools, different things for people in that space. I've received many different awards, best-selling book, Direct Selling for Dummies, was contracted by Wiley Publishing Company, and that book has done extremely well. It's been #1 in 4 different countries, so That's been pretty exciting. So,
tell us what direct selling is for those listeners that don't understand what direct selling is exactly.
Well, you know what? It's interesting because the direct selling profession, if you were to look at it, is really it's a direct to consumer versus going into a brick and mortar. So a lot of the network marketing, party plan companies, which are a lot of people that I work with, but more and more as we are starting to see more people get in the entrepreneurial space, it's a lot of companies are creating that sort of direct selling model. Insurance is that way. Real estate is actually that way. But the actual profession itself of direct selling is mostly referred to companies that offer a product and they have a field of sales reps and they sell that product. But direct selling is basically sales rep to consumer versus a brick and mortar is the best definition.
Okay, great. Now, is the company based around training agents? Is it taking the place of agents in different types of companies?
You know, what we do is we've created programs to help the sales associates. So I have programs from everything on goal setting to time management to leadership training to presentation skills, follow-up skills, retaining your customer, getting new customers. We have everything under the sun in that particular. I have created literally so many programs. It's funny because I didn't ever have a book until Direct Selling for Dummies came out. But prior to that, like the amount of CDs that we have sold are like equivalent to a gold record.
Oh, wow.
So, but those don't count anywhere. Like they don't count in any accolades anywhere because of that. But that is the equivalent. We've sold a lot of programs to a lot of people.
You should make yourself one of those just gold record placards. Hey, if you did it, if you did it, you did it, right? Like, hey, it's part of the game.
That's right. Right on.
You sold that many audios, you might as well use it. So our listeners are aspiring entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs themselves as well as small companies. Give me a time where you felt, and we'd like to kind of remind them, of course, to keep trucking and also kind of understand part of the process is failure and then kind of failing your way to the top. What is a time where you felt you kind of hit rock bottom or we're close to it? Belinda, and tell us how you kind of overcame that challenge.
Sure. Well, so I left the corporate. I was a corporate trainer and I was encouraged by a couple of other pretty well-known motivational speakers that I had what it takes to go out there and create my own thing. And I remember like calling people back in the day that we called, right? Like, and tried to get myself booked and here's my services. And I really offer great things, and just shut down day after day after day after day. And I remember creating like a brick wall, like out of bricks. And I've still done this even today because it's just really good, I think. But for me back then, I created a win of just any positive comment that I got, a connection that I made with somebody. If somebody led me to somebody else, I just would like color in that brick wall so that I could see progress of me knocking it down. Like I'm knocking down these bricks every day instead of trying to look at it like, this is how much I made today. This is what I did today. I went one step further today. I knocked down one more brick out of this wall today. And recently, because for 25 years we've had extreme success. And I think the biggest mistake that I've made in recent years is that I didn't take the online marketing world as serious as I probably should have, because I've been so successful not using online marketing or social media or anything.
You've been successful with direct sales.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
Our company was doing, a couple $1 million a year back in, the 90s. So it's like, and then all of a sudden we weren't, and it was like, oh my gosh, what do we do? And, I had to try to get up to speed quickly. I was smart enough to bring a social media trainer on board with me instead of trying to learn it all myself, because I didn't have enough time. So I think that you just have to look at your wins and not give up. I mean, that is the biggest thing for an entrepreneur. You can't look at the whole picture. You have to dissect it down. And what was my win today? And, if people I've gone back to the simple basic trainings, like we just did this year as a test with many of our audiences. And I said, the contact or connection can be through social media or whatever, but go back to making your 10 contacts a day, like make 10 contacts or connections a day, no matter what. And it's amazing to me if people would actually do that instead of getting sidetracked or say, oh, I need to go, create this document, or I need to create this graphic and put on, or I need to go onto social media. It's just like, sit down and make 10 connections with people that you think could either be of influence or might get you somewhere, or to get their feedback on your products or anything. Just like, hey, wanted to connect. I appreciate you, value you. Tell me what you thought about this. And I always do this in December as a test for my own self and for our listeners, because over the course of 40 years, I've been in sales for 40 years. And I'll tell you what, I can always go back to that. And December is an easy time for me to do that because I'm not traveling as much. I'm not on the road speaking as much. And
people aren't buying as much.
Right. So you want to know what? They're into their own thing and they're selling their own thing. If they're sellers, they're out there hustling.
Oh, absolutely.
Right now. Yeah, and I get it. So I always just play the connection game, and we get business out of it every single year. I get bookings for the new year. I get people wanting to order something. I meant to order, but I've been so busy, I haven't. Oh, I wanted to take your course, but yes, go ahead and sign me up for that right now. I'm so glad you called. I just think that people, they're fearful of actually making connections with people. And I used to have a big sign on my wall, like years ago, see the people. And so I would always be like, okay, I've been in my office today, I've done this, but how many people have I actually seen? And today I think we can do that with how many people, physical people have I connected with? It doesn't have to be in person, but like, more than just sending a text message or a DM message. It's like, how have you really connected with this person to show value, to show that you care, to show that you think they're important? These are all things that are going to take you so much further in life than anywhere else. And people just ignore it.
Tell our listeners why. I mean, let's dig into that. I love sales, and as a salesperson myself, I think any entrepreneur that's been successful understands and or gets sales. But I started out in sales and also I'm able to kind of at least manage my own company's sales managers, etc. Now, why do you think? And I have an idea here, but tell the listeners why you feel 10 connections a day is challenging for most people out there that are in sales. Like you mentioned it before, like if they just stuck to, for example, KPIs, right? If they just stuck to their simple processes that are a script to success and a day-to-day task to success, why do you think most people do not do that?
Fear is the number one reason. Fear of rejection, fear that, so they'll do everything under the sun to tell themselves, like make their list of things to do. like, well, but this is important and I need to do this. Perfectionism. Like, I need to make sure everything's perfect before I reach out to these clients, because what if they were to buy, then I'd have to have this and I don't have this in place.
Yeah.
And so, it's fear of rejection, fear of perfectionism, fear of, I'm not really sure what to say. That's why I am a huge advocate of scripts.
Yeah.
We give a lot of scripts. We give people a lot of words to say. And man, if people would just do it, my son, who's in his mid-30s, he is very successful at an insurance company, and he walked in the door being super successful, and they're like, how the heck, how are you doing this? And he's like, my mom just taught me all of this, and he just basically does it, and it's scripts, and then he gives any sales reps that he is bringing on, here's a script, just say it, just do it exactly like I've given it to you.
Right. Right.
But in the 10 contexts,
I guess in a lot of the world of scripts, Belinda, I think sometimes people do feel they don't want to be robotic. And I guess don't be a robot. You got to put your own swag to it, your own personality in it. But we're not asking you to read a script like the computer or like Siri's going to read it back to you, right?
Correct.
We're not asking you to do that. Be personable, put your own personality and character into it, but just get the point across in the script.
Well, this is why the 10 contacts are so incredible.
Yeah.
And is because the bottom line is that this is really the bottom line on sales, is people never master their craft. They never do it enough to get super good at it, so that they don't feel that they have to use that. Like, if you actually made 10 contacts, you would start to say the same things. And then people would say, oh gosh, that's exactly what I've been looking for. And they'll give you some feedback, and then you will naturally say, oh, this is what one of my customers was sharing with me. And you share little testimonials. And the next thing you know, you're like, wow, that was a hot button. That worked. Yeah. So in my next conversation, I pick up the phone, I make my next call, and I'm like, wow, I was just talking with a lady and she was sharing with me, blah, 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 blah. And I shared with her. And so then pretty soon it is you, but you have to do it enough that you get the practice, and nobody's getting in today's world enough practice. That is one thing I can tell you. They try to do something, it doesn't work, they're moving on. They're not willing to dig in and actually become a master of their craft. And that is what I really see as the biggest challenge in today's entrepreneurial world.
Absolutely. I think that's a really good point in terms of people just not repetitively becoming the master at one thing and trying to become mediocre at many, right? And not focused at one specific type of, whether it's a sales aspect, whether they're a business owner, the focus. In today's world, it is really hard to focus. If you're not turning off your phone, or turning it on silent, or turning off all your notifications, or if you're out there listening to this right now and you're getting all your notifications, I promise you're doing something wrong. You need to stop that. If you're not able to focus on things and at least get things done, or have that attention on a one-on-one phone call versus taking a look at your phone on who texts you, who just liked something on your Instagram, that angle is going to allow you to not do your 10 specific touches and or connections, and real connections, like Belinda's saying, per day. Belinda, what do you think are some of the reasons why you've been successful as an entrepreneur, and you've done it for many years? What do you think are reasons why entrepreneurs give up on their business goals and dreams?
Well, there's two reasons today. Okay. Number one is, this is the easy one, but like, people are instant gratifying society. Like, they want instant gratification. And so, or they read online where somebody says, that's why in my podcast, I always try to say, give us your journey, because the story that's out there is, I was flat broke and did nothing, and I created a program and now I'm making 7 figures. And that just isn't true. But yet everybody watching is seeing this.
Right.
And so when they don't see the same result, they're just like, well, this isn't right. Or, I'm not like so-and-so, and so I should be trying it different. And so they don't ever want to, create that, consistency. But the other reason, and this is really the bigger reason, because one of the wheelhouses that I've always been very good at, and even outside of direct selling, like if I were asked to speak anywhere, I've spoken at Ford Motor Company. And like, the big thing that I'm really good at is goal setting. And what we have learned in every year, it's less the percentage of people that actually will set any kind of goal and have real metrics. Like, this is what I'm aiming for, and then stick to that goal. And one of the things I say is, people need to set their goals. And so we ask people, why are you not doing it? Well, I don't want to fail. So this fear of failure is higher than it's ever been in my whole 40 years being involved in sales. It's like, what is wrong with people? There's still so much insecurity and so much fear of what other people think. I mean, those things have always existed, but they're worse than they've ever been. And so people are paralyzed and they're not setting any goals. So if you don't know where you are, how do you know where you want to get to? And then when you get somewhere where you think you might want to be, then it's real easy to give up on it because you never really knew what it was you really wanted to achieve in the first place. So there is no set, this is what I want. And people have to get over this fear of failure. Like, you are going to have small failures. I always say, be really strict with your goals, but be flexible with the means of which to get there. So if that wasn't working, okay, try something new. But you have to be strict with, this is my end goal. This is where I want to get to. This is what I'd like to achieve. And then you can break down your action steps, and you might have to change your action steps. But people aren't even doing that today. And that is the biggest issue, period.
I agree. Life Nation, we're all striving towards different goals. Maybe your goal is to finally quit the 8 to 5 grind, quit your job, or take the next step with your existing business. Whatever the goal may be, regardless of your reasons, if you are serious about taking the next step and finally trying to build the life that you deserve, the life that you want to live, take the leap of faith with me. Go to michaellevis.com and let's discuss your goals and life. It's 100% free. There's no obligation. It's michaelleolivas.com. Schedule a quick call. I'd love to help. Belinda, those are some great value bombs there in terms of what our listeners have. And most, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're an inspired entrepreneur listening, I think that's something important to understand, that if you're not setting your own sales goal, sure, your sales manager is setting your goal. And if you guys aren't together reverse engineering that goal to find out what it takes monthly, weekly, and daily to get there and what those KPIs are to get there, then you got to we got to recreate how you're thinking it. If you're going in every day and not knowing where your appointments are coming from, or if your calendar is not booked, those are the kind of things that I believe a company like Belinda really helps with, right? Like, it's just being able to understand how to get there. It doesn't have to be rocket science, but success leaves clues. Belinda's obviously done it for so many years, but she understands how to structure that model so people can be successful based off of scripts, based off of goals. But the number one reason Belinda's mentioning is because why people might be giving up, not necessarily just on the business, but on their profession, on their career, on where they might be not successful, is because they're not properly goal setting. So it's really a good breakdown there. And of course, the other angle is instant gratification. Patience is such a bit. I had a big problem with patience at first, a really big problem with patience, and it's really taught me to understand that we got to really enjoy the journey and just not the outcome. And right. Realize that there is a process involved, and realize that there is falling on your face involved, and that's totally okay. But it takes some time and a little bit of willpower, I guess, to feel like, okay, I got it, I get it. Yes, it sucks that I didn't hit it this week, but what am I learning and my takeaways from it? How are you currently? What do you like? Let's say this in the world of sales and direct sales, and what you're currently working on right now. What are you really excited about currently in your business?
We're excited about a lot of different things. We're teaching some pretty good programs like online with social media, but like I still teach the basics, and I think that the basics are more important than ever. And I'm seeing that. We teach these 4 pillars of success, and that is focus, commitment, consistency, and organization. And I've taught that for a very long time, but those are the key 4 indicators or pillars of success. And so you got to be focused. We've already talked about that. And that's focusing in on one thing at a time. And we teach some really great programs on that, on time blocking, time management. And then the second is committed. Like you've just talked about that, patience, you could call it that, but you got to be committed. You got to be in it to win it. I'm in it for the long haul. I'm not in it for what happens tomorrow. Consistent. You've got to do the same old over and over and over again in order to get the results you want, in order to master your craft. And your lack of organization is costing you more time than any other single thing, I promise you. So it's getting systems in place that help keep you organized. We have, and this is our 3rd year, and I think it's our best one yet, but we have an awesome planner that is more like a business system. And I got sick of all the planners that were out there, and some of them have great features, but at the end of the day, they don't have a place to track your stats, your analytics. Where are you now? What do you want to do? What did you do the same time last year? What was your improvement? We've got the little tick boxes for we have a program called the Power Hour. Like 15-minute increments, 15 minutes to change your day, 15 minutes to change your life. It's like, and then each little day has the little boxes on which days you did your power hours. And like, it creates accountability. It creates, it's got everything for your leads. It's got a training article each month that tells you what things you should be focused on for social media. It's pretty amazing planner. And that's what we're really focused on right now because, 2020 is coming up and our planner's awesome. Like, it really is.
That's what it's, I mean, and that's what it takes now. We're so, Gen Z and the millennial market, not something, and I never really like look down or talk down about that, or about any millennial or the Gen Z world. I like to say it's not their fault and or our fault. I'm part of that we grew up with it, right? We grew up with it. It was kind of forced in our faces. Nowadays, it's forced in kids' faces where they're forced in a tablet versus something that might be like, a little bit more interactive, however, or I guess if anything, more human-like, if you will. So now we're in a position where focus is becoming harder and harder. And it's funny that you mentioned how fundamentals are even more relevant today, where people go away from them. And it's awesome. Like, hey, our model hasn't changed. It's in fact a lot more important now that your model is like, hey, listen, now we try to shove our model of fundamentals down the throats of those that might be the younger demographic of understanding, like, oh my God, if I was just to focus, you're going to be eons ahead of people within your college, eons ahead of people that were 25 to 30 range that are used to doing something, but also being distracted every 5 seconds. And the focus, committing, consistency, organization, and the planner that brings that stuff together is it sounds like an awesome program. Where can someone see some of that stuff, or how do you teach that? Or is it something that's an online program that you're selling?
Absolutely. Our website is stepintosuccess.com. That is one place that you can find many of our products. Our planner is there currently. And so if for our listeners that maybe not in specific direct sales, if you will, I've had so many people though use our programs, like our Power Hour program. Our planner is really, I've got real estate agents using it, insurance agents using it, lots of different sales reps using it. And the interesting thing about a writing in a planner, there is strong statistics on it that people are about 36% more productive when they are actually writing it out, mapping it out. And people ask me all the time, like, isn't this kind of old fashioned? You just came out with this. And what about a digital calendar? Like, I use a Google Calendar. I go, I use a Google Calendar too. Exactly. But here's the difference. And this is what I don't think people today really fully get if you haven't lived it. And that is, digital is reactive. Like, I'm talking to you and you say to me, hey, Belinda, let's do this. And let's do it at, noon. And we go, okay. And we put it into our calendars. I get a reminder on my calendar. That is really good. That is a reactive. But that doesn't cause me to think about what I would need to book, or am I booked in? And so when you look at your planner a month at a glance and what do you have, and literally looking at the holes in your calendar, it causes you to be more proactive instead of reactive. And I really think the digital world is a more reactive space.
Sure. Yes.
Where we need to be, if you want to make business happen, you can't sit around and wait for it to happen. You have to become proactive. And what's my calendar look like? Where do I have holes? How do I want to fill in the holes? Okay, what do I want to do consistently? Every single Tuesday, I'm going to do this no matter what. Like, it goes back to all those things we talked about. And that's why I think it's really good to have a good combination. I'm not, saying the digital world is out, because obviously it's just such a huge asset, but it should be an asset. It should be a driver, should be a vehicle that is helping us get to where we want to be quicker, but it doesn't take away where do you want to get to?
Right.
And that's what I think people miss. They just keep thinking that if they get on there enough, something's going to magically happen. And it really is.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I think going back to just, again, focusing on the fundamentals that you mentioned, focus on the fundamentals that you were taught. I love sports analogies. The most winningest coach, John Wooden, always talks about in some of his books, and some of his quotes are all about the fundamentals. And if you look at any basketball game from now up until when basketball started, what do they do every game before? They shoot layups and they take jump shots and they shoot free throws. I mean, the fundamentals are not changing. And John Wooden went all the way down to the details of saying, after he had 3, 4 in a row titles in basketball, he would come back and all his players were like, why are you showing us how to put on our shoes? Why are you showing us how to tie the laces tight? And it was because he's like, listen, if you get a blister, you're no good out there, right? If you're not, I mean, it's just going down. He's like, we're the champions. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you need to go back to the fundamentals every new season. So if you're not reteaching yourself or revisiting at minimum the fundamentals, even if you're great at it, remember those things are what are creating your successes and making sure that, and I love the calendar holes. Don't find, if there's calendar holes, that's a really, if you have calendar or holes in your calendar, it's a really good indication that you could be doing more, or you might not be as proactive and you might be more on the reactive. If you're waiting for leads to come in and you're knocking on doors, whether it's digitally or physically, then there's something wrong.
Yep.
I love that. So tell us a little bit about your, I guess our final question would be more about your advice. And out of all your successes and failures that you've had, Belinda, in your business, what is what's the one piece of parting advice that you'd give to the business and life listeners that are listening today?
Oh, goodness. So, as much as we say focus, but I think it's also learning not to put all of your eggs in one basket, like really, really looking at, multiple ways to do something or create multiple streams of income within your business that you're trying to do. Because one might be hotter than the other, or really bringing in money where you need to like go in and focus on that one aspect for a little bit, but really kind of trying not to put all of your eggs in just one single thing.
Right.
And I've had to learn that over the years. The other thing is be willing to change, and not change too quickly, but at the same time, like, I think probably my biggest, detriment, but I'm figuring it out, but like, I really knew what I did worked, and I was going to keep on doing it. And I didn't need to do all these other things that were coming down the pike. But you know what?
That's right.
The rest of the world was changing. And so the only person that wasn't changing was me. And so I think not being stubborn and saying, okay, this is changing. How can I change with it? And staying relevant. Always finding out in your industry, whatever your industry is or whatever it is you're teaching, be relevant. And the best way to be relevant is to keep reaching out to people. The way I stay relevant is by calling top sales leaders and say, tell me what you're going through right now. Tell me what your greatest challenge is right now. And I've built that relationship with them that I can just pick up the phone and have that conversation. But I feel I'm still very relevant with what people are dealing with today. But be willing to change, be willing to move, be willing to pivot. That was the last thing that I wrote in here is, we can still have that goal, but we might have to pivot. It's like, be strict with your goals, but be flexible with the way in which you get there. And that's probably my biggest piece of advice.
I think that's really great winning advice at the end there, Belinda, in terms of just learning that there probably are, or there are 100% other streams of revenues within the skill set that people have out there. And after you master it and after you processed it and SOP'd it and have it down, why not open those up and finding out what those are? Belinda, can you give us the website where they can find you?
Certainly. It is stepintosuccess.com. That's our website. We also have a great podcast more for entrepreneurs in general of all type background, and that is Work from Your Happy Place. And our podcast is doing really, really well right now. That was something I started 3 years ago just to reach a new demographic. So that was a new scary thing for me, but and it's taken a while for that to really catch on and be successful. We're going into our 3rd year. And I think that, again, that just shows you have to be committed, consistent, get organized with it. We're doing a lot of things right. And there's a lot of things we can do better, and we're still learning. And I'm still learning. I'm going to, taking classes and going to conferences and, trying to talk to other people who have podcasts. And so, and it's been exciting because it's a new learning journey for me too. And that's probably, what's your last piece of advice? But my goodness, and this one sums everything up, is always remain a student. If you ever think you've gotten to a place where you know it all, then you have nowhere to go but backward.
That's right. No, I absolutely agree. This is what we all This is why we podcast. This is why I podcast. I love to chat with people that I can truly learn from. And I've learned from you today, Belinda. I appreciate your time and all of your efforts out there to help people better at sales. And thank you for all the sound bombs and the knowledge that you've dropped a little bit here today. So if you have anything, guys, you have the website. You can check out the show notes and you'll have all that information there as well. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Life Nation, you got to remember that in order for things to change, you must change. And in order for things to get better, you must get better. You just got better by hanging out with me, Michael Ethos, and the Business and Life Nation. So come back tomorrow because I'm here dropping sound bombs 7 days a week, baby. If you'd like to subscribe, please do so you can take action and execute. See you tomorrow.